Welcome in to Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we have the latest reports from Seahawks OTAs involving the injury updates on Tariq Woolen, Jordyn Brooks, and others. We'll get to that coming up in just a moment. Today's show is presented by Hexclad. You can go to hexclad.com/chat. Get 10% off with the promo code CHAT at checkout. We'll tell you more about their awesome cookware coming up in just a matter of moments. On today's show, we will tell you everything you need to know, news and rumors-wise, on the injury front with your Seattle Seahawks at OTAs. Also got a roster update we'll get to as well coming up at the end of the show. Before we get to that, though, we have been telling you about this sub-battle we've been doing all week with the 49ers report and the Cowboys channel here on Chat Sports. And I got to tell you, we still have some work to do before the end of the week to see if we can come out on top and win this sub-battle, to prove that we have the best fans, not just in the division, but in the NFC as well. Subscribe now for free today. I'll tell you why later you need to subscribe, what you get out of a subscription to the channel in just a little while from right now. In the meantime, hit that sub button. You'll be glad you did. Let's take it and own the division. So the injury front, let's start with Tariq Woolen. Pete Carroll gave a very positive update on his injury status. If you recall, within the last couple of weeks, Tariq Woolen had quite the scare where he got injured walking on the practice field. Well, that required surgery, and Pete Carroll talked about the status of Tariq Woolen on Thursday and said things are headed in the right direction. That's what he had to say. He didn't have a play where he got hurt. He was in between plays. He was getting ready to get lined up, and he felt something. It wasn't bad. Then before the play started, he sat down. He felt something was wrong. Fortunately, everything went great. He's getting around terrific already. It's hopeful a 4 to 6 week type deal. His attitude has been great. He's never really accepted it when it happened, and it was such a weird occurrence. He just took it in stride and has been really positive about it. We should be able to get him back soon. Now, all that sounds good. Glad to see that Tariq Woolen seems to be okay, that he's headed in the right direction based on the reports, the indications we've heard from Pete Carroll here. But one thing I'll keep in mind that I think is worth noting on this situation, we've told you before, and we continue to reiterate on this program, that the Seahawks have one of, if not the best secondaries in the entire National Football League. And it was a big deal for the Seahawks to bring in Devin Witherspoon in addition to what they already have with Julian Love coming into town and Jamal Adams expected to be healthy. More on Jamal Adams. We get an update on him coming up later as well. And with all that said, there is one guy in the equation that we can't forget about, and that is Mike Jackson. It's expected that Mike Jackson is going to be replaced in the starting lineup by Devin Witherspoon. But because you have Mike Jackson there, that makes things more doable for the Seahawks, where they have other pieces. There's no need to rush Tariq Woolen back because you can trust Mike Jackson to fill that void just fine as far as I'm concerned. So we'll got more that we'll tell you about the Seahawks injury front. We'll look at the secondary in depth coming up in just a moment. But first, now word from our sponsor, Hexclad. All right, guys, it's time to talk about your kitchen. And no, I'm not talking about your roommate's dishes in the sink. Today's sponsor, Hexclad, has revolutionized the cookware industry with a hybrid pan that gives you all the convenience and cleanup of non-stick, the versatility of your grandma's cast iron, and a lifetime warranty just in case you find a way to destroy them. Use promo code CHAT at hexclad.com/chat for 10% off. Hexclad truly checks every single box when it comes to picking your cookware. They are metal utensil safe, dishwasher safe, and oven safe up to 500 degrees. Don't just take my word for it. Celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay uses them at home too. The sear I get with these pans is incredible, with absolutely no stick. The temperature control is utter perfection, and the cleanup is effortless. I love using Hexclad at home. And look at this, folks. Here's the pans. You can see them in all their glory right here. They are also the sexiest pans on the market. Score points at home. It's time to stop ordering delivery food and start cooking like a big boy with Hexclad. Real cuisine isn't made in the microwave. It's cooked in a Hexclad. For a limited time, get 10% off with our special link, hexclad.com/chat. That's 10% off at hexclad.com/chat with code chat at checkout. Tell them the Tyler Jones and Chat Sports sent you, and you'll be glad you did. Looking at the depth chart for your Seattle Seahawks at the secondary, as you can see, Witherspoon and Woolen are expected to be your starting two outside corners with Kobe Bryant at the nickel, and then Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams holding down the safety spots. Now, if Woolen, for whatever reason, does not recover in time, or if he doesn't make the progress that's expected of him, no need to fear, because Mike Jackson, a very experienced starter who played relatively well, is here to potentially fill that role. And it's not a given that he necessarily gives up his starting position that he had a year ago. This is what Pete Carroll had to say about Mike Jackson recently at OTAs. Mike had a really good, solid year last year. I think he's feeling it. I think he's feeling the confidence that comes from what he accomplished last time around. He's played really solid football, did a lot of good stuff. He comes back and he feels like he's in really good shape. So there's Pete Carroll on Mike Jackson. Watch out. Let's see what he can bring to the table and have an exciting year in 2023. Grade the Seahawks secondary for me, A, B, C, D, or F. What do you think of this secondary group for the Seahawks in 2023? A lot of excitement around. Tell me in the comments section. Give me a grade what you think of this group in the comments section below. All right, moving on now. Let's look at the other injuries besides Tariq Woolen. Here's the latest that we had from Pete Carroll, what he told us at minicamp so far. Jordyn Brooks should be at minicamp. This update actually from OTAs, rather. He should be at minicamp. Progress seems to be headed the right direction after that injury that he had towards the end of last season. Things are headed the right direction there. Jamal Adams, same thing, should also be at minicamp as well, and they're hoping that both players are available to be a full go when training camp comes around, but they'll be at the facility here in the next couple weeks. Meanwhile, defensive lineman Bryan Mone, his recovery not going quite as well as the likes of Jamal Adams and Jordyn Brooks. What Pete Carroll said was that his recovery has been kind of up and down, and it's a great unknown of what his status will be ultimately when the season goes around. So a lot of important playing time ahead over the next several weeks to compete for that starting position, because we don't know ultimately when Mone is going to be back. Meanwhile, Abraham Lucas, the standout right tackle for the Seattle Seahawks, who had a breakthrough rookie season in 2022, had an injury late in the year, but sounds like he should be ready for camp, that everything looks like he's good to go and close to 100%. And then Will Dissly also missed the end of last year. Sounds like he's doing great. Pete Carroll indicated that he's 100% and ready to go. So for the most part, the injury report for the Seahawks at this point in time, as they go through this phase of the offseason, looks pretty dang good, as things appear to be headed in the right direction, at least so what we're told, according to Pete Carroll at OTA so far at this point. What's your level of concern for the Seahawks injury report? Relatively positive, right? Scale it for me in the comments section, 1 through 10, what your concern level is at this point for Seattle at this point in time. 1 through 10, let me know in the comments section below. A couple final notes before we wrap up today's show. Let's go with a little roster update for you, as the Seahawks signed two different corners to the 90-man roster. That would be Benji Franklin as well as Montre Braswell. They'll compete. We'll see if they can ultimately make the final roster or not, but at least a couple bodies involved to hold things down going forward in camp at this point in time. We'll see what those guys do in addition to the loaded secondary that we talked about previously. Also, one other note, NFL.com has named the Seahawks as one of the most complete teams in the National Football League entering 2023. A lot of hype, a lot of excitement. We've been talking about it here on the channel. The 12s, the Seahawks fans know it, but now the Seahawks are getting that national recognition that we all have acknowledged with this team as well. Here's more from NFL.com on where the Seahawks stand at this point. I think heading into last year, there was some real question about, hey, how much are they going to be in the hunt right away? A lot can change in a year's time. Obviously, it can swing back the other way. But the Seahawks are right there in the mix just because of the fact that they've plugged a lot of holes and done a good job of replacing some outgoing vets. And in particular, Eric, in this article, I encourage you to go look at NFL.com, specifically points to the secondary and bringing back the Legion, everything that they're doing with this group. He was in particular impressed with that. One thing for me that stands out in particular, I agree with a lot of what Eric says in this article. I encourage you to go look at it. But for me, what I point to is the run defense is still an issue for Seattle at this point in time. Now, we've heard Pete Carroll say they're not done adding players to the roster just yet, that there's still more work to be done, that they have some guys they're keeping an eye on, and that they have some final touches before this roster is a full go. But we can't ignore that. That still needs to be addressed. This roster is much improved from what it was a season ago. And there's reason to think that the Seahawks are one of the better teams in the NFL and in the NFC this year, but there's still more work to be done as far as that goes. Name a player the Seahawks should add. Tell us what you think in the comment section, a player that comes to mind that you'd like to see on this Seahawks roster in 2023. Also, remember to check out Hexclad as well and get that 10% off with the promo code chat. Hit me up on social media. I'll be there all weekend. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tyler Jones Live. Hope you have a great weekend, and thanks for joining us here on Seahawks Today.